And my first reaction to my agent was, how much do we have to pay him? I swear that's what I said. And so needless to say, my agent thought that maybe I was kind of a rogue as a kid, rather wild. So my agent thought that maybe I should meet Stanley. So he set up a meeting. Stanley lived in New York, and I flew into New York and met Stanley at the Oak Bar, the Plaza Hotel. And Kubrick was a very cool guy. I knew he would be. And my first reaction to Kubrick was, I said, listen, I didn't set this up. My agency thought that, we should have a personal contact. I'm sorry about that. And I'm sure, I've already got the job. I don't really know why they wanted me to do it. And he just kind of looked at me, and I knew he would be cool. I've seen his films, and I just knew he would be cool. So we didn't even talk about the movie. Basically, truthfully, we talked about football. He was a big football fan. I know that upsets a lot of people who go to film and filming and study 2001 in college. Kubrick was a great football fan.
Good to know. So when you came on, he and Arthur C. Clarke started this project in 1964, and Arthur C. Clarke and Kubrick were co-writing the book and the script simultaneously. And I'm curious, when you came on, what shape was the script in? And were you able to see all of the script or just your section?
Well, the interesting thing was that when I received the script, I started reading it and something was somewhat familiar about it. And then it hit me. When I was 12, 13, and 14, I suddenly, I don't remember why, but I became a science fiction fan. And my mother used to give me a collection of the best of science fiction, probably from various sci-fi magazines, called The Best Science Fiction 1951, Best Science 52, 53, and giving away my age, but anyway. One of the stories was by Arthur C. Clarke. It was called The Sentinel, and it dealt with just the finding by the scientists of the monolith on the moon, and what it kind of suggested that some passing intelligence millions of years in the past were looking down on Earth, and now it was like a cosmic alarm clock waiting to go off by discovering it again. So that was my first reaction. Wow, that I would remember that short story from age 12 or 13, whenever it was, that now I'd be doing this film based on it.
Gary,
wow.
Your reaction to the script?
Well, it was sort of like at the top of the page there'd be one sentence and nothing else the whole page. But I mean, believe me, I had such confidence in Kubrick, I don't even consider it. But I did want to say this, that you said something about they got together in '64 and wrote the screenplay.
They started.
I tell you truthfully, they walked around New York for a long time before that. They used to walk around Manhattan and talk about it, and then they'd go off. So it wasn't like what you've been reading. I know Stanley once told me that they had been in contact with it for a long period of time.
Getting onto the set, it was the aircraft manufacturer Vickers Armstrong that constructed that beautiful set of the spacecraft at a cost of $75,000, which was a lot at the time. Seems like nothing in retrospect. And Gary, you're running on there, and it's pretty incredible. And I just want you to place us on the track with you running on that big, grand, beautiful hamster wheel of the set.
Well, I didn't have to eat any acorns or anything, but it's a piece of cake, really. I mean, there was nothing to it. When I ran all the way around, I didn't actually do that, you see. The camera was on a fixed position on the wheel, and the camera went like that, and I stayed at the bottom. So basically, the only time it was really difficult is there's one traveling shot where I'm running, and I'm sort of up a little bit, like here's the bottom of the wheel, and the camera was on wheels, and the guys were running. The grips and everything were pulling the camera, and I was trying to keep an equal distance to it. And so here's the bottom of the wheel, and the camera guys are up like this, and I'm up like that. And if you ever see the film again, you'll see that I'm actually running downhill, acting like I'm not running down.
Well, and then there's the amazing shot of the two of you together, where Keir is coming down the ladder. And
Yeah, it's in one shot, in one frame, you see Gary eating upside down at the top of the wheel, and I enter in the hub and see him come down, get some food, and all in the same shot,
Right.
walk upside down. Well, what they did, he had a harness underneath his. He was eating upside down,
So you were strapped in here.
and what they did was they revolved him down to me. I just walked in place, just as he did the running around. I just walked in place until he arrived, and I slid into the seat next to him.
But you might be interested to know that that shot took about, close to a week. Never, the first time I was upside down and Stanley had a speaker system. He was outside with a helmet on. That was kind of funny. He had a helmet on in case something fell on him. But he was outside, and he said, in his gentle manner as always, "Okay, Lockwood, on action, start eating." So I had these three sort of piles of nothing in front of me, and I stuck a fork in it, and you gotta remember I'm upside down and the food went like this. And it was the biggest workshop test you've ever seen in your life. That was the end of filming for the day. We got to go back into London, and I think I stopped in Golders Green and got some fish.
Well, so I think it's a good time to talk about how many takes Kubrick would do when when you're suspended upside down. How long would you be in the harness for?
You know, Shelley Long, an actress, I've never met her, but apparently she and Stanley didn't get along very well because constantly people come to our table, and we've done lectures on this movie all over the world, and there's all these books written about how many takes. The only time we really did a lot of takes was in the pod, right?
That's true.
Yeah, when Hal reads our lips. That's the only time we did a lot of takes. We did 35 takes. One day Stanley said, "You don't like to do a lot of takes, do you?" And I said, "I don't particularly like to, but you're the boss. I'm here, I'm happy to be here, whatever you want." He said, "Well, why don't you like to do a lot of takes?" I said, "Because I think that after 3 or 4 takes, that you start to get in a rut, that you start to your mind goes to where you think it was before. And you start to think, okay, that was comfortable, I'll try to emulate that." And, that's just my opinion, but we're all different.
I'll tell you another story that I think you might be interested in. I guess I'm showing off a little bit, but there was a scene. It was where I speak to Mission Control, and we shot it. But in anticipation, it was technological gobbledygook for me. It was very hard to memorize, and there wasn't a lot of dialogue in the film to memorize. But I was worried about it, so I spent weeks ahead of time, because I knew what the shooting schedule was, over and over and over again, so I could be relaxed when we had to do it, right? Well, we shot it. Then in editing it, Stanley decided it was too similar to another scene where Mission Control speaks to us. In fact, Mission Control speaks to us twice in the film. So he cut it. It was never used. But because of the way I memorized it, it's still there, and I can do the whole speech. And I'll do it right now. One like this. Please. Mission Control, this is X-Ray Delta 1. At 1920 onboard fault prediction center, and our 90000 computer showed Alpha Echo 35 unit as possible failure within 48 hours. Request check your in-ship system simulator, also confirm your approval our plan to go EVA and replace Alpha Echo 35 unit prior to failure. Mission Control, this is X-Ray Delta 1, triangle, mission concluded.